The old motto of the Off the Rope show used to be entertaining ourselves while you watch. And that is something I always strive for, and that's something I do always try to keep in mind. That if I'm not enjoying what I'm doing, if I'm not entertaining myself, if I'm not having fun doing it, then how can I expect any of you to enjoy what I'm doing, any of you to have fun watching what I'm doing? That's just the way it is. If I come across the same as so many other people and be boring and be monotone, I just don't feel like my message is going to get delivered properly. I don't feel like my message is going to be received in the way in which I want it to be received. There are two primary reasons I ever started really doing videos about professional wrestling here on YouTube to begin with. Number one is that I didn't really feel like my voice and my views were being accurately represented. And I felt like I could be a bridge to that and speak to wrestling fans in a different way about different topics. And I feel like I've done that to some degree. Not the greatest of all time or anything like that, but I do feel like I have done that for sure. The other major goal that I have had with this, ever since we started doing it at the end of 2010, was not to get the WWE or TNA or an ROH or the wrestling business as a whole to listen to me and to hear me out and hear my voice. Because I know better. I'm many things. I'm an idiot perhaps, but I'm not stupid. I understand that the WWE is in their own sports entertainment bubble. Instead of listening to somebody like me, they would rather listen to random ass focus groups and, do all of these other stupid things. I understand that TNA, when you bring up something that's completely legitimate, will do what any type of business will do, which is try and deflect and try to shift focus and minimize what you have said and try to spin it in a way that is in their favor. That's basic public relations 101. My whole goal with coming on here and having my voice have a form to be heard was to try and affect change in the way professional wrestling fans here on the internet and the YWC, the IWC viewed the WWE and TNA and professional wrestling as a whole, and get you to change your perspective on things and get you to change the way you thought about things and the way that you view things. I feel like there are certain instances where I have definitely done that, whether that be the Breakfast Club, whether that be a lot of people, starting to have their opinions changed about Randall Keith Orton, a lot of people starting to view somebody like a Mark Henry positive. I feel like there are times where, I've helped be one voice of a group that has helped to shift opinions and shift perspectives and shift the way things are viewed by some wrestling fans here on the internet. What a great contribution it is, I guess. But there's one thing I feel like I haven't really done a good enough job of, and that is getting enough people's eyes opened to the very simple and easy and apparent, to me at least, fact that the WWE does not care what you think. The WWE does not listen to you, has not listened to you for a number of years, and will continue to do so in the near and present and distant future. And here's what I mean. I hear all this stuff all the time about the fact that, oh, if the WWE doesn't change, or the WWE doesn't do this, or the WWE doesn't push this guy, or the WWE doesn't have this guy go over at this pay-per-view, I'm going to stop watching. Except for the fact that the very next week, you're right back watching again. Now, for me, from a standpoint, if I'm working in the WWE and I see a group of fans saying all of this stuff, and over a period of time, over a course of months and years, and now more than a decade, I see there is a trend of people constantly bitching and pissing and moaning about things and then not following through on their threats, coming right back and bitching about it and pissing and moaning and griping about it the next week. Why would I listen to them? Because ultimately, they're going to be there regardless of what I do. And there are times where, from the WWE standpoint, the WWE has pushed people that you like, that you wanted to see pushed, namely guys like CM Punk and Daniel Bryan. And when you got that, a lot of people pissed and moaned and griped and bitched about it. So why would they sit there and give you what you want if you're still not going to like it? If you are still going to piss and moan about it, but then come right back the next week and be right back watching it again, right back pissing and moaning about it. Think about that for a second. Now, sure, maybe sometimes you don't like the way that it's done, and I get that sometimes. But sometimes you have to sit there and say, you might not like this, you might not like that. But they got a guy to a certain point. They're giving me fundamentally what I want. I might not like everything about it, but I can deal with it. I can accept it. They've compromised with me. I'll compromise with them. But that just doesn't seem to be the case. Now, there's also this ridiculous notion that hijacking shows by chanting for whoever you want and booing the people you're supposed to cheer and cheering the people you're supposed to boo is going to somehow get the WWE to change its business model and get them to listen to you. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but you've been booing and hijacking matches and shows involving John Cena since 2005. And yet in 2014, John Cena is still the top babyface in the WWE. You have booed this man. You have come on the internet and complained about this man and pissed about this man and moaned about this man and griped about this man and complained about this man. You have hijacked his matches. You have chanted, "Fuck you, Cena." You have chanted, "Cena sucks." You have thrown his t-shirt back. You have done all of these things. But yet the WWE still features the guy as the big hero, as the top babyface. They haven't listened to you about that in 9 freaking years. Why in the bluest of blue hells would you think in 2014 the WWE is going to do anything different compared to what they have done in the past? You want some other examples? I'll give you some other examples. Look at the Nexus in 2010. They were getting over better than anybody else in the company at that moment. They were the hottest thing. People were getting behind this group. People were enjoying this group. The WWE didn't really care what you wanted, and they decided to plow those guys under in a burial that would even make Triple H, God himself, happy. John Cena goes over him at SummerSlam 2010, and then it quickly went downhill from there. Remember that? Remember in 2011 when you really wanted to get behind CM Punk and you were really hopeful that the WWE wasn't going to screw this up and you were really hopeful that they were going to do something big and magical to make CM Punk a new type of top guy and maybe, God forbid, actually do something to make him the top babyface in the company? They have him walk out the champion at Money in the Bank to bring him back 8 days later so that way he has a rematch against Cena where Kevin Nash, after the match, interferes, cost him the belt because ADR cashes in, and then CM Punk proceeds to lose the next, 3-4 pay-per-views in a row. When you're giving this man the loudest cheers possible, they are doing everything they can to bury a guy that they should be trying to build up into a top babyface, a guy that you guys are legitimately getting behind, a guy that you want to see featured, a guy that you are buying a shit ton of his merch, a guy that is doing okay in the ratings, could do better maybe if he was given more of a time to be featured prominently, and he hadn't done so much beforehand. Remember his feud against Randy Orton in early 2011? How well that went. Think about that crap. And then afterwards, you're supposed to have this big Summer of Punk angle. You're supposed to do something dramatic. They hotshot the hell out of it because they didn't have any long-term plans for it. 8 days later, he's back, which was stupid. And then at SummerSlam, the focus is on Alberto Del Rio. And then he's losing to Triple H. And then he's losing in a tag team match. Now, what the hell's going on here? But all the while, so many of you complained about it, and so many of you got pissed about it. But you ultimately did nothing. You still watched. You still bought the merch. You still bought the pay-per-views. Hell, you could even say you still illegally streamed the pay-per-views, whatever the case might be. So what does the WWE care? If you're not going to provide any real tangible consequences for their actions, they're not going to change a damn thing. You want to know when the WWE did see some real consequences in their actions? It's when they effectively managed to drive away a couple of million of wrestling fans in 2001 with that abortion of a storyline in the invasion angle. We've been waiting to see this for fucking years. WCW versus WWF. And instead, all Vince McMahon did was make it about the frickin' McMahon family. And you get to Survivor Series 2001, the big final showdown, which was stupid in and of itself. The whole storyline was freaking stupid. You're having WCW come up with a AA roster and not a very talented AA roster for the most part. You've got no Hogan, no Hall, no Nash, no Flair, no Sting, no Luger, no Macho Man, no Goldberg. None of these fucking actual top guys that represented WCW that were what made WCW a real tangible threat to the WWF. Of course WWF's going to look like the freaking monster. Of course they're going to dominate. It would insult your intelligence to think otherwise. And whereas WWF drove these guys out of business, Vince in his ego just had to sit there and make himself and the WWF look like the good guys when they were the bad guys. They did what they wanted. And they served you up a big steaming pile of shit and expected you to eat it and like the taste of it. That's a reason to this day I firmly believe that there are a few million ECW and WCW fans that no longer watch professional wrestling, especially at least the sports entertainment offered by the WWE, because they got so insulted and they got so pissed off by this pro-WWE spin that Vince McMahon just had to put on the invasion angle. The last two people fighting for WCW versus WWF were what? Stone Cold and The Rock? Because that made a lot of effing sense, right? Right? Because Vince McMahon wanted to do it his way and do it exactly the way he wanted to, and that's it. He feels like to this day, and his company feels like, they know what you want better than you do. And when you don't sit there and you don't follow through on your actions, and you don't follow through on your threats, and you don't provide any consequences to the actions, of course they're not going to change anything. You get the whole instance now of Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan, from a live event crowd standpoint, not throwing in merch sales, not throwing in television ratings, from a live event attendance standpoint, is the most unanimously over babyface in the company today, period. He is the one individual that almost everybody cheers for. Something that the WWE has sorely lacked for many years is a uniting, unifying babyface that everybody can get behind, that brings something to the table for every type of wrestling fan. You have cheered this man. You have chanted yes for this man. You have supported this man. You have come on here and talked about this man. You guys have complained when he hasn't done this. You have complained when they did this. You have complained after SummerSlam. You have complained here. You have complained here. And yet so many of you still watch it. Again, you have booed John Cena for almost a fucking decade. And they still push him as the top babyface. And they're not going to stop doing that anytime soon. You got behind CM Punk. And they still did all they could to sit there and make sure that you clearly understood the pecking order, that it was Breakfast Club and CM Punk was on the tier below it. Even though you got behind him, even though he was getting the loudest reactions, even though he was selling a shit ton of merch, even though he was doing a decent job after a while in the ratings. So a lot of you are surprised when the WWE brings in Dave Bautista and has him win the Royal Rumble and gives him a title shot at WrestleMania. How naive can you be to not understand how the WWE operates and has operated for a long period of time? I've talked about this on numerous occasions, that the Breakfast Club runs the show. That is Triple H, that is John Cena, that is Randy Orton, and now you got Dave Bautista back. You throw in Triple H's lifting buddy of Sheamus, and there you go. And you could see even how WrestleMania 30 was being set up around those guys. That's how it works. It's how it is. There is no way on God's green earth, praise God, dog, that anybody in that company will ever be allowed to ascend to the highest possible potential that they can, as long as these guys are sitting there wanting to do business their way and protecting themselves most. And we probably do the same thing if we were in their spot. Look at what happened with Ryback. Ryback was screw the Goldberg chance. He was actually getting over to the point where if you would have went all the way with him, he could have become a big-time babyface star for the WWE. But no, we had to serve him up on a silver fucking platter for CM Punk and the Shield. Then we had to serve him up on the frickin' platter after WrestleMania 29 for the John Felix Anthony Cena. And look at what Ryback's doing now. It's hard to envision him even having a WrestleMania match at WrestleMania 30. What a tragedy. What a joke. You guys were actually getting behind this guy. And the WWE chose to do it the way that they wanted to do it. The Breakfast Club always rules in that company. Think about that. What makes you think that chanting for Daniel Bryan is going to change the way WWE does things? Because you're still going to the events. You are still paying money at the end of the month, whether you want to admit it or not, to get the fucking WWE network. You are still watching it on television. You are still buying the merchandise from the company. All of you idiots that have sat there over the years and bought Cena Suck shirts, you realize that for a good portion of that time, the Cena Suck shirts were being put out and distributed by the WWE, and John Cena was getting paid for it, right? So they were playing on your emotions, and skillfully so, and you were supporting the very thing that you thought you were rebelling against. The most effective way to affect change in the WWE is to stop watching, is to stop going to the live events, is to not buy the WWE network. I've heard so many stupid freaking ideas from fans in general over the years. One of the dumbest ones I've heard is that when you go to a live event and there's a John Cena match, how about everybody gets up and walks out? Because that's going to send a strong message. Ding dong, you're wrong, dipshits. Because if you still went to the event that John Cena is headlining, have you not already paid your money to get in? Have you already not bought the ticket? Have you not bought the concessions? Have you not sat there for the show? They've already got your money. And as far as they're concerned, oh, we sold it out. But at the John Cena match, everybody walked out. Well, we still sold it out. We still did a great gate for the damn show. People still bought concessions. We made money off of that. What do we care if they watch? As far as the WWE is concerned, if you come there and you actually go to the venue and you pay to get in, and then you proceeded to go hide in the bathroom for 3 hours and take a huge hulk of dump, do you think they care? No, they've already got your money, dumbasses. Do you really think that hijacking the show, when you've been doing it for years with John Cena, when you've been doing it for years now, even with Randy Orton, and you've really gotten strong in this, do you think they care? Do you think it matters? No, because they still went with John Cena and Randall Keith Orton in a freaking feud. Where years ago, people were talking about they were tired of this and they wanted no more of this. They decided they wanted to do it. These were the only two guys in the company worthy of unifying the belt, so they fucking did it anyways. The Breakfast Club rules, bitches. When you look at it, at WrestleMania 30, Orton and Batista are going to be involved in the title match in some way, shape, or form. Whether it is the two of them or whether they want to sit there and throw a Daniel Bryan in to pretend to throw a frickin' bone to the crowd. And more likely than not, you're going to see Daniel Bryan have to work with Triple H because God's got to get a pay-per-view payout. You're going to have Sheamus work with somebody, maybe like a Kane, I don't know. John Cena is going to work with a Bray Wyatt, and God only knows how that's going to turn out. Understand this, that until you stop watching, until you stop buying the merch, until you stop going to the events, until you stop even talking about it and tweeting about it, all the people sitting there up in arms bitching about the Royal Rumble and all this other crap, all you were doing was helping promote the WWE. Bad publicity, you feel like? Good publicity, it doesn't matter. It was still publicity. You can always take even the worst publicity and spin it into a positive. You can. You see companies do it all the time. And God only knows the WWE over the years has done that. Vince McMahon took the Montreal Screwjob and made himself perhaps the greatest heel on screen in the history of the professional wrestling business. So don't tell me Vince McMahon doesn't know what he's doing when it comes to changing the narrative to fit what he wants it to be. In 2014, this company is still doing this. I feel bad for so many of you that don't understand how the WWE works, that don't get it, and don't provide any consequences for the actions of this company. Don't sit there and try to boo John Cena. Don't go to the fucking show. When you have Raw, and even if they try to mask it, and there's only 6,000 people in an 18,000 seat venue, and you do that repetitively over a period of time, they're going to notice. Instead of watching stuff involving the Breakfast Club, maybe you only watch stuff involving your guys, whether it be Daniel Bryan or whoever the case might be. Maybe, just maybe, instead of being a knucklehead and buying a Cena suck shirt and supporting the WWE, and as a result John Cena, and giving even more reasons for them to spin it and say, well, there was they love him or they hate him, it gets a reaction. That's what we love about the WWE universe. Maybe you stop buying the Cena suck shirts. Just a thought. I hope the WWE at some point in time does choose to listen to their fans. Because there was a point in time where the WWE thought that they were doing everything right, and they eventually learned and realized just how wrong they truly were. That came about 1997, as they were getting their asses handed to them on a week-in, week-out basis in the television ratings by WCW. And it got to the point they had a Raw in early 2007 where the rating was a 1.9. Wasn't it amazing how quickly the whole creative direction of the company changed, and by the end of the year we had officially entered into the Attitude Era that all these years later people still love, and all these years later people still pine for and piss and moan for to come back. Why can't we have it like this? Why can't we have it like that? Well, again, if you're only ever going to complain about this stuff just to go right back to it and watch it the next week, you're not doing anything to help. You are only hurting the cause. If you were going to sit there and think still that hijacking the show with your chance does anything, you are stupid, because you have still paid to get in. At this point in time, the WWE does not care about your reaction. If they feel their ratings are good, and their live gates are good, and their merchandise sales are good, they can humor themselves backstage in the gorilla position at your reactions and at your expense. So until you as wrestling fans realize the naivety of your ways, whatever, and you realize that in order to affect real change, you must change, and the way you approach things must change, nothing is actually going to change. You could do all the videos about it. You could talk about it all you want in the forums. You could sit there and do this, and you could sit there and do that. But until you stop watching, until you stop buying any merch put out by the WWE, until you stop yourself from buying that WWE network that so many of you sit there and claim now because you're pissed off about what's happened with Daniel Bryan and CM Punk, you're not going to buy, even though you know damn good and well you are. Until you do that, until you follow through on what has been year after year after year after year of empty threats and broken promises, the WWE will change nothing. They don't listen to you. Get out of this wrestling fan bubble of thinking that we are the WWE universe and we can affect positive change and we are going to. You're not going to do shit. Until you change your approach and you change the way that you approach your view of the wrestling business, and in particular the WWE, and the way that they approach and do things, nothing is going to happen. And I emphasize again, absolutely nothing, except you will come on here and do the same things you have been doing for years, and all the while wondering why no changes happened. The WWE will not listen to you until you give them a reason to listen to you. Ultimately, we can sit there and not like it all we want, and we can blame them all we want, but it's not their fault. It's ours as wrestling fans.